Hello and welcome to another edition of Richard's Carpy Bits. I'm going to talk about the KD rig today and show you how it's made. And what I like about this rig, well, two things I like about this rig is number one, it is so simple to make, and number two, it's just a really aggressive rig. There's not many other rigs I can think of what have a hook sticking out like that, so that's what I like about it. And yes, there's a lot of variations on it, and yes, there's a lot of different little things you can do to change its layout, but to be honest with you, I think its original design is fantastic. It's easy to make, and yeah, it catches carp. It's not a rig I use that often, but I think it's good enough, yeah. Right, so here we go. All you really need is a hook of your choosing. Now, if you're going to use a hook, obviously choose your size and whatnot in comparison to your bait. But you know, for the pattern, I would use either sort of a wide gate pattern or a curve shank pattern. But yeah, I'm using a wide gate for today. You need a bait. Now I'm going to critically balance it because I think it's the best way of using the KD rig. So yeah, sort of pop up and bottom bait together, critically balanced. I think it's a fantastic way of using it. However, people do just use a pop up, but then you've got to add weight and that sort of thing, and I just think it complicates the situation. But we can talk more about that later. You need a swivel, rig stop, baiting needles, and whatever sort of hook rig line you decide to use. I like to use fluorocarbon because it lays on the bottom really well. And of course, a pair of scissors. But that's really all you're going to need for this rig. Now, first off, I like to marry the baits together, which basically just means trimming the bait down a little bit, like so, on both baits. Just like that. So literally, they almost marry together. And then always push on the pop up first. And that's how your bait's going to look. Now I'll do that first because we've got to measure it up. Then I'll take a generous bit of fluorocarbon. And like I say, I like fluorocarbon. You can use various others, like mono and braid and whatnot, but I like to take a generous bit off. And obviously, same with most rigs, tie a loop in the end. Just your sort of overhand granny knot. Just pull it nice and tight, and then put a second knot, and this is just so your bait doesn't slide. If you're using two baits, it's always a good idea to do this. Put another second knot just a little bit further down, so that will hold both baits then, and pull it relatively tight. It's got two little knots. Right, next thing I like to do is roughly just measure up where your bait's going to end up. Just make sure you give yourself enough room for your bait stop as well. Right, so we know it's going to end about there. Then take your hook and feed it through the back end of your hook as you would normally, but with this rig you only want a short bit of hair, just a short bit. So literally I would say if your bottom bait touches the first part of the hook, you've got it about right. Now twist it through away from the crack in the eye. 1, 2, and then let it go, and then go underneath your hair and then wind it round a couple of times. So I'm going to do it about 5, so that's 3, 4, 5, and then push it down nice and tight, and then what I do is go back round the mono and push through towards the point of your hook, as we've said before. And that, once you pushed it down nice and tight, is the business end of your rig sorted already. Now I'm just going to put bait stop through. Now I've got to say, this rig, whilst I'm doing this, is really not designed for a bottom bait only. It's not going to have a good effect. It has to be a critically balanced bait, because if it's not going to have a good effect at all. The hook and the aggression is just not going to flip over in the fish's mouth and have the desired effect. Right, next, put your swivel through, and we'll do a Palomar knot. We'll go back through again, like so. And then what we do is we make a loop in the line. Give yourself plenty of line. Make a loop in the line, like so. And then wind the tag end through the loop and against your line 5 times. So once we get this, your tag end is going to go through your loop 5 times. So 1, I'm messing this up because I'm on camera. 1, 2, 'Nice, I use fluorocarbon. 3, 4, 5. And the best thing to do is wet your knot as always, and then pull the swivel and hold the tag end. So pull it down until the knot starts to tighten, and you can use your fingers, and then just ease it down, and just make sure you pull your tag end, pull your swivel, put it all nice and tight, and you'll feel it click into place. Next thing to do is just cut off the excess tag, leaving just a little bit. You don't have to do this, but this is personal preference. Just get a lighter and very carefully, minding the line and your fingers, just dot that down. I'll leave a nice dot like so, and if your knot does slip, which is quite impossible, but if your knot does slip, hopefully that little dot will catch and you'll still get the fish in. As you can see, you have made yourself a KD rig. That easy and simple, and it's a very, very effective rig. Now before I go, I will just mention, and like I said earlier, some people like to use just a pop-up. Now the rule with a pop-up is always make sure you weigh it down, because it still needs to be critically balanced even if it's only a pop-up. But there's two different ways of weighting it down, and that is depending on if you're fishing on weed or whether you're fishing on gravel or a smooth sort of surface. Now if you're fishing on weed or silt or anything mucky like that, I would suggest you put your putty here underneath your hook, so it will sit up still just above your weed like so, and the hook won't catch. If you're fishing on a smooth surface, put your putty or whatever you're using to weight it down above the hook, so the bait won't be too high up. And there you have it. One other thing is, if you do fish this with a braid, I would always suggest putting a piece of PVA nugget and just sort of wrap it round so it stops the hook from flipping over and tangling up and whatnot, because it's really a bit of a tangly rig sometimes. Other than that, this is Richard's Carpy Bits. Speak soon.